Welcome to Cypress Creek Adventures. Hey there. Welcome to this week's episode. And we've had quite a long winter this year, and actually we've had a real winter with a lot of snow and ice, cold. It's good to get rid of a lot of bugs and insects. So this week I'm getting kind of itchy to be outside and get my garden going, and done a few things already to it, but we'll get ready to plant some spring crops, and we'll talk about a couple other things as well. So I'm out here to the garden spot, and we're getting ready to do our garden this spring. A couple of weeks ago we had some pretty nice weather, and we're at the end, almost to the end of March now. And every once in a while we get these couple good days. So in my garden, I put all the ashes from the stove out here all winter. And every time I clean the coop out, I put that in here too. And that's all worked in. So we look here what survived. And on the right here, of course it's not up, I have a row of asparagus along this edge. And my Swiss chard didn't seem to winter over too well, but the kale looks real good. And so we'll get a couple pretty good cuttings on that. So we'll move on over here, and here's the garlic that we planted on the previous video, and it's looking pretty good this spring. So what we'll do now is I'll go ahead and I'm going to work this up, and then this week we're supposed to have some really nice weather, so we'll plant potatoes and onions. This ground I have here is very light, and when I first started here about 8 years ago, this garden spot was white. It was just almost white sand, and I've got it built up pretty good right now. And I'm going to get a little soil test done on it and see if I need lime, but it usually does because of the ashes that I put on every year. So we rotated the crops this year, and where I had tomatoes last year is where we planted the garlic. And so tomatoes will probably go over here next to where the kale was. Because I never want to plant tomatoes on the same ground year after year, because they just don't do very well in the insects and such. So anyway, we'll let this lay a couple days, and then we'll be back and do some spring planting. Well, it's been 4 or 5 days, and one day we had 1 inch and 8/10 rain. And so I came out here and see if we can get some spring crops planted. Got some Swiss chard to replace the Swiss chard that didn't make it over winter. And I saw the rest of that row of some pawpaw trees that I planted from seed. And it usually takes a year for them to just root themselves. So hopefully they'll emerge this year, and be able to grow some pawpaw trees that are indigenous to our area. As you can see, the kale sprung up pretty good since the other day. So I'm going to take and level this down, and we'll plant a few things. Okay, so I marked off my row here, and I found some Swiss chard plants the other day, and they look pretty good. So I picked these up, and we'll get these planted. I usually like to keep them about 1 foot apart. We get another rain, these things will just take off. So we have these in here. One more here. These in here. I love the Swiss chard. It's really sweet. It'll last all the whole summer when the kale will pretty much get taken over by bugs. All right, up on this end from the Swiss chard we just planted, these are where the pawpaw trees are, and I've got these little stakes in here. And I did a test here because I was afraid that they hadn't come up at all. But when I dug down carefully, I did find a sprout down there. And what I read about pawpaw trees is they go a long time rooted in the ground before they ever emerge to the top. So I'm going to give these quite a bit more time, and I'll be very excited if I get some trees out of these few seeds that I had planted. All right, so we got the yellow and red onions put out here in a row. We'll get these covered up. When they come up and the squash is on, I'll pull every other one of these onions and use them for spring onions or scallions, or however you want to call it. And they're very good. And then I'll let the rest of them get a little more size, and I'll use them all summer. And whatever's left in the fall, then we keep for over winter. So I got these little potatoes here that I had in the house, and of course they're not fit to eat now, but they're sprouted real good. And this is the size potato I like. I don't usually plant potatoes, so I'm not much of a big potato eater, but I do like this size. All right, so now we got a row of potatoes here, not quite to the other end, but we'll fill in maybe if I get a few more. So now this row, we're going to put in spinach. And so I've got this spinach here from Burpee, and it's a Said Salad Sensation, which will be a good variety for me because I like to eat it right from the garden without cooking it. And then we got our 2 rows of onions, and then our kale, and then over on the other side there we have the Swiss chard that we planted. Well, I don't grow a very big garden, but I grow a lot of stuff for myself, and I try to keep this intensive. And I got onions and spinach and potatoes and garlic. And we have kale and Swiss chard that's in the ground now. And then we'll have asparagus along that that fence. Well, I hope you enjoyed this little episode on my garden. Some of it's kind of repetitious to some, and others that are just getting started. I hope this is informative and can show what you can do on a small scale. Now, I've always had a garden, even if I lived in an apartment or someplace. There's always a little garden spot. You can put a couple plants in, tomatoes and stuff, but to me, I just enjoy being out in the garden. Of course, I farmed earlier in my life, and so I've always been an outdoors guy. So we'll stay tuned in further episodes, and when we get to better weather, we'll plant some of our summer plants. So till then, I appreciate you watching, and thanks for subscribing and supporting my channel. And hit that subscribe button and like and share, and we'll see you next time. God bless.